Then in the meanwhile, I'll start to introduce our jury, keeping an eye on every presentation, on every sub-project result, and selecting the winner of the competition today. So first of all, we do have Alisa Alvarez. You know her probably from yesterday. She represents in the jury the civil society and business sector. Give her an applause.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
We do have from the politician side Monica Gündal from Värmland. She's joining us here. Give her an applause.
Yes, very far away from Sweden, all the way down here.
We do have, also from Spain, Antoni Castelló. He is professor at the university in Barcelona, and he represents the researching part in the jury. And last but not least, again, a politician representative, Lasse Juliusson from Hedmark. And I hope I did the pronunciation in a not too bad way. Welcome, and enjoy the next presentations.
And seeing that we have a jury, we also need a cup, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't call this a European Talent Cup. Now you can see that we added something over here. It's not just my scarf, it's also a cup. I admit funds are low in the EU, so it's not a big cup, but not less meaningful, I think. So, whoever we have now will battle for this cup. Big surprise, we're gonna leave it here, and we'll see who earns it. And we will start with the first priority of our mini program, which is increasing, not improving, increasing regional attractiveness. Now, I would like to ask the sub-project representatives on stage with me for the sub-projects Button, Border Info Center, Quality of Life, and TAS.
You could give them an applause in order to bridge the time they need to go up to the stage.
Wonderful, take a seat, get comfortable. The Button representative can get comfortable as well, although maybe not too much because they will get going first. But I would first like to give the mic in a very short round just for you to get the names and maybe the organization of the representatives, who they're from, where they're from, and then we get going with their results. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Iveta Delidaitė. I'm from Lithuania. Nemunas region, Marijampolė biuras.
Hello, my name is Sergio Villava, and I'm from MODERNA Fundación from here, from Navarra.
Hi, my name is Alex David. I'm from Germany, region of North Rhine-Westphalia, working for the Institute for Work in Germany, Work and Technology, sorry.
Hello, I'm Frans Koenen from the Netherlands, the province of Overijssel, and mainly the region of Twente, University of Twente.
And that's Margot, exactly. So we have a good regional representation here already. Lithuania being represented with the region Nemunas, or Euro-region Nemunas, Navarra, North Rhine-Westphalia, and the province of Overijssel. I would like to ask the Button representative to please get started. I will give over this very important little button, speaking of button, and the floor is yours. Oh, that's mine.
Can we use a microphone? Okay, can we use two microphones? Okay. We have to improvise a little bit. We have to improvise a little bit, and it may look like a trick that I want to win the cup, so I'm presenting two things, but that's not the idea.
You're not the only one to present two things.
The thing was that our Button sub-project leaders couldn't be here, so we had to take over. Very shortly, what is Button about? Button is the first project from Brainflow. And the basic idea about button is that we have very different brain flow problems. And for all brain flow problems, there are solutions. And these solutions is like finding the right button to push. And so we have a very interesting partnership. We have many people in the partnership that all could have been the ones presenting. And now you're stuck with the two of us. So we are going to do this. So Ms. Piggy, please.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, and as Franz said already, Button was having an insight into the regions and searching for measurements, how to reattract and retain and maybe mobilize, or let's say product, even if I don't want to speak about products, speaking about human capital. Well, the main findings, as you can see maybe here, are very shortly summarized. You can have it on our webpage. But the main finding is that the type of brain flow problems are comparable in the regions, but anyway, they are also very specific. So human capital, or less, let's say, the lack of human capital is also regionally and sectorally different in all the regions. The policy recommendations, so I give you the overview of let's say, the main one is each region needs its own button to be pushed. That's clear what I said, because I said before that it's different in all the regions, so it's clear that you have to have your own measurements which you use in your region. And this is then what you need is, do you want this one?
Yeah, I take this one. Okay, so if we look to what happens in the regions and what the regions try, we found four, let's say, overall policy recommendations. First of all, we would like to advise that a region that is coping with brain flow problems, human capital problems, would need an overall strategic process. And that should involve all stakeholders, and it should focus on the specific regional brain flow problem. It would need an overall frame for various measures to be bound, because we found out that in some of the regions already things were happening, but often things were done by lots of stakeholders, very diverse, overlapping, not coordinated. So that's an important advice for us. And this also means that this process would need a kind of a coordinating actor. But from our experience in the project, don't always look to government. It doesn't necessarily have to be the government. It can also be another actor, but there has to be some focus. And also a mistake that we saw, also a thing that we saw in some of the regions, that we all have different problems with different categories of human capital, but we should not focus on just one category, like remigration or attraction of human capital. We should have a broader focus on different categories of human capital.
So, for example, we should also have a look in the region, what is the unused potential we can maybe mobilize. So, well, best practices to illustrate. So we changed the presentation a bit, because we said first the policy recommendation, and then we wanted to present you why we took this policy recommendations. And we said, okay, best practices to illustrate are: one, solving the problem of having enough human capital, and we will give you an overview of it, of one of the region. Solving the branding problem, which also means, for example, employer branding, which is very popular in Germany, because in Germany you have, for example, like SMEs-driven economy, and a lot of people who are high educated, they don't want to work in these companies. They prefer to have a global player, for example, to start a career. And solving the human capital problem of the knowledge economy. So maybe the first thing Franz will explain or give an
Okay, to give you an example of working on solving the problem of having enough human capital, we take, here as an example, the Twente region. The Twente region is struggling in having enough human capital. And what the region did, that in a very broad group of stakeholders, business, the education sector, government, sat together and built a so-called human capital agenda, which is a broad strategic plan, but it has a very clear focus. And they were thinking about what can we do in the region. And one of the things that we're thinking about is that we have to produce more human capital. So there's a very strong focus on the educational sector, starting on primary schools. How do we get especially more talents in the natural sciences at universities? This is a main focus of their agenda, but of course in the project we have more strategies that basically are focusing on trying to solve the problem of having enough human capital. But having enough human capital is only one of the brain flow problems that we identified.
Coming to the second, solving the branding problem, I think that border region, and especially border regions who at the same time are peripheral or rural regions, they have an attraction problem. And the region we analyzed in Germany, Ostwestfalen-Lippe, is a part of the broader region, North Rhine-Westphalia. They are really very good placed when it comes to economy. They have like Bertelsmann, for example, and they have Oetker, for example, so big companies, you know. But they had a problem, so nobody wanted to work in the region. So they had a plan, and they tried to change the rural branding to a technological branding, and they managed by doing a mile, which they called Zukunftsmeile Fürstenallee, which is an innovation mile, and they, you know, they tried to work with, so build a kind of triple or even a quadruple helix, so that you have companies, public institutions, and universities working very close together, also in this mile, so that they are also close together when it comes to the space. And so they managed to brand it outside and to say, we are innovative, and if you want to work here and if you come, we can give you more than just a rural area.
Okay, and the last example we choose to say something about is a bit difficult for us, because that's basically the problem of solving the human capital problem within the knowledge economy. And I think a good example is here the Navarra region. You can, of course, say, okay, human capital is something to solve in itself, trying to attract people, trying to remigrate people. You can also say, no, it's very much linked, like we see in the Plan MODERNA, it's very much linked with the kind of economic clusters that you choose, the kind of economy that you want to have, your modernization of the economy. And if you have to think about this, of course, then we see this as one of the examples that we want to bring out, a very good example of a region that at the same time tries to think about how do we modernize our economy, how do we make choices for good economic clusters here, but also think about, okay, what does this mean for human capital? What kind of people then you have to educate? How do we build this on? Where do we have to attract people from? And see this as a very integral agenda. Okay, 5 minutes, Marco.
Yeah. More than 5 minutes, so, okay.
Sorry.
For once. Thank you very much to the button representatives. I think that definitely gave us 3 very interesting best practices on those 3 issues that are addressed. I would like to start, I would like to continue right away, actually, with the other sub-projects, and then we do a shared question round. So I would like to please have the Border Information Center representative to join us here. The manual one?
Okay, thank you. Hello. Well, I'm not sure it will be 5 minutes also, because there's a lot of things I want to share and to tell about our sub-project. Okay. Let's start from that our sub-project has 2 main goals. Because in Lithuania, we don't have established border information center, so we don't have any experience about that. So the main goal for us was to make a research and to know, is there a possibility for such kind of institution, border information center, to be in Lithuania? And for our partners who have already border information centers, and it worked very wonderful, the main goal was to exchange experience and also to strengthen already existing border information centers. So I will start from Lithuanian part that we made research to know the situation in Lithuania in order to establish border information center in the future. And the main findings was these which you see listed, but first of all, I want to say that We have interviewed 1,019 people. It's 607 specialists, 607 students, 305 employees, and 137 specialists. So it's a huge amount of persons. And the finding is that 70% of specialists think there's not enough information about possibility to live or work in the border region. And it's quite strange because in Lithuania there's a lot of information about possibility to work in Ireland, Great Britain, Norway, but impossibility to work in border region in Poland, there's no. Other finding is, which I think is very important because yesterday we talked about that, 38% of students are ready to work less qualified jobs or change their qualification that they could live or work near home regions. And yesterday we were talking that students have to be global to learn to invest in themselves in order to get the possibility to work in the other countries. But our research shows that most of them would like to stay and to have a possibility to stay in the work in hometowns or home regions. And 66% of respondents would use services of Border Information Center in Lithuania. I would like to stress out that only 2-3% said they wouldn't do that because they don't need this kind of information. Other percent said that, well, they don't have opinion on this point. While we were doing the research, our partners were setting the best practice in their border information centers. And they did very good job, and I stress out just two of them, which I think is essential to know the situation. And one of this is local consultation hours. The main goal of that is to give information for the person who seeks for it or who needs it in their home towns. Because most of them, they live or work in the border region, and they all don't have possibility to come to Border Information Center in working hours, or they don't know about Border Information Center. So what our partners suggest is to go to their hometowns after working hours, like 6-7 p.m., and give the information they seek for, to consultate them, advise them, in order to give them all possible information and to be visible in the future to cooperate. Other best practice identified is online advisory services, which I think is very important also because it can be tricky. For my opinion, most of people who call into Border Information Center, I don't know, 6, 7 from 10, maybe asking for the same question, which is easily answered. But there's some person who has very, very specified issues that is not so easily solved. So advisors has a possibility to save their time by setting the most often asked question and the answer to it, and put the internet pages all in the brochures. In this way, they can save time and offer it for persons who really needs has very complicated situation and which is not easily solved. And the other one is Border Council. This is also very important in order to be not only visible, but that politicians and other persons who can make changes in the border region could see and hear you, what you want to say. The Border Council identified and analyzed the situation in the border region and suggest the possibility how to solve obstacles that Border Information Center sees every working day. That is very important and essential. Policy recommendation, and this would be according to our situation in Lithuania. As we don't have Border Information Center, we have made suggestion to establish Border Information Center in Nemuno Central region, or create new institution, or add functions to already existing existing institution, and of course create a methodical council of Border Information Center. We are very lucky because one of our researchers in the project became a Minister of Social Security and Labor. So the dialogue with ministry is very fluent and ongoing. And in the strategy of Lithuania, which is preparing now, 2014-2020, will be added Border Information Center as one of the instruments to reduce unemployment in the border region. Of course, dialogue with our partners in Poland, labor exchange institution in Poland is ongoing, but it's not so easy because in our region, Border Information Center, till our project was, we don't have any information about that. And our partners gave us very huge help with exchange experience because we, with our partners from Lithuania, we are going and introducing them how Border Information Center can work with labor exchange institution and arrest bureaus in the same way in cooperation and help to solve the obstacles that can be faced in the border region. So that's it. Okay, main things that I said.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our Lithuanian partner for the sub-project Border Information Center. Border Information Center always makes me think very strongly of my family's background because my mother is French and she's a civil servant in France. So Germany in the 70s, wasn't that easy for her to start work in Germany. She would have had to redo all sorts of diplomas and state exams and whatever. And so they decided to move to a border region, Germany and France. And so every day she traveled to Strasbourg and worked there, but living in Germany. And back then, no border information centers existed at all. And she had to find all the information for herself. What happens to my pension scheme? What happens to my health insurance? What happens to my identity card if I do not live in France but work in France? Are there any risks for me? Where can I vote? Can I vote in the country I live or not? Can I vote for certain levels? All those questions are very important for people that work cross-border, and she made that experience very strongly and did find that back then the support was maybe not given yet. So I'm very thrilled that we see a development on this border, Lithuania-Poland, of helping exactly those commuters to make life easier on them. Thank you very much for Border Information Center. We will continue with quality of life, a face that we already saw, and I'm sure he's a very active person in brain flow. Thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about quality of life now.
Okay, I want to do this a bit different than the other projects. First of all, I have to give the credits for this project to German Swiss ladies, Tina Haug and Jessica Knall, who came up with the idea for the project and presented it already in Pamplona 2 years ago. But basically, I'm now the project leader. Okay, I'm going to do this completely differently. Hold on. Try to follow my metaphor. My metaphor basically is thinking about regional attractiveness and quality of life. And my metaphor is dating. So think about dating. I mean, all the people like me, we're not experienced to this, but think about what dating in modern life is, basically. What you're doing is looking for a partner. So my metaphor here is interesting people to work and live in your region is like dating and looking for a partner. Try to follow me in this. If you're looking for a partner on the internet or in a pub or whatever, you're looking for a person, and the other person is looking for you, and you're trying to bring out your best qualities, and you're looking for a match. That's also what we're doing if we're looking for talents. And of course, we know qualities are a matter of taste. Qualities of people are subjective. What one person likes and another person, somebody else would not like at all. Think about that. So what I try to do in 5 minutes is that regions are looking for talent. So how could and should the factor quality of life in presenting your region to these talents, but also in the information that you get from the talents, what they like about your region, what would this mean in this match of dating? Think about this. And of course, it's a metaphor. And it's like speed dating because I only have 5 minutes to explain this to you. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, I don't have time to talk about availability, of course. Like on the marriage market, jobs have to be available. There has to be some kind of a match that you have to write, graduation, to find a job, things like that. So, but I want to discuss with you, just to follow up, 3 things. If you're dating, attractive for whom? That's a good question. How do I know for whom I'm attractive? And how do I present my attractiveness and to whom? Very simple questions. But these are also my policy recommendations to regions. Because what would be very stupid in dating and finding a partner, regions do all the time. Give you an example. Okay, if you see this at a dating site, single woman seeks man, or a little bit better, single independent woman looks for somebody to share her life. Okay, stupid? Do we know anything about who's searching for who? Do we know anything about qualities, things like that? No. This is what regions do all the time. Because regions would just simply say, region looks for talent. Okay, maybe a little bit better. Border region looks for talent that wants to live and work in the region. But it's not very specific, of course. You don't know exactly what you are looking for. And, okay, then the question, of course, is, how do I know for whom I am attractive as a region or as a person in the dating market? Dating websites, of course, they use like checklists to find matches. You can fill it in. I never did. I'm happily married, but you can do this. The thing is, if you do this, it forces you to think about your qualities. Okay, what kind of person am I? What kind of opposite sex persons would I basically attract? And maybe in this process, you would ask for advice. You would ask your friends and your family, oh, I have to go on a dating website. What should I put down there as my profile? Huh? What should I be down? Okay. Think about this metaphor. The same thing regions should do. They should not take their regions for granted, but they should ask the talents who are all living in region, or who are all living in the region, with what kind of characteristics are these people? Why do they live in the region? What do they like about the region? The same as you would do on a dating website, because you can ask these people, what do you think that the quality of life in our region is, through the eyes of these people, and the people that really want to live in your region. So, which means is, it's a way of finding out the specific aspects of the talents that want to work in your region. So very shortly what we did a survey among talents in the regions that were in the projects, people who are living there, happily living and working there, and asked them, why do you work in this region? What's so specific in our region? And we're trying to find characteristics of people that would want to work in our region and try to use this in our branding. And not think like, oh, we have to make a ranking and we're a culture or a sports region or whatever. No, bring out what's specific for our region. And so this basically is a method of finding out the quality of life. So single woman looks for a handsome millionaire, okay, whatever. But where the websites use these checklists, we found a method, or we worked on a method with a survey that asks basically talents. And I'm speeding up. And we used the survey in our project regions, and we identified like the typically talents that would work in such a region. Because if you're cosmopolitan and you want to live in Amsterdam, Paris, or London, you probably don't want to live in Pamplona, but still a lot of people want to live in Pamplona because there's a match between the quality of life here and the things that people are looking for in their life. Think about this. And this information is subjective information about what your talents or your potential talents want, and you can use this in the branding of your region, but also in all the things that you can do on improving the quality of life. So don't try to make this and say on a dating website, I'm the right man for every woman, because people can check you on the internet. You should not lie about your region. You should bring out your strong points and your weak points, and you should have a very good idea as a region what kind of people I would attract, and use this knowledge in branding, one. And secondly, if by talking to people you find out that you have weak spots in your attractiveness, like for instance, you're missing, like in one of our regions, you're missing a school for foreigners, international school, you can work on improving the quality of life in very specific points which are interesting for these people and not very general to the whole world, because you don't want to match with the whole world, you want to match with the people that want to come to your region. So you can use this in planning. And sorry, very shortly to finish off, about the do and don'ts. So it's not that all women want rich men. And it's not only like every pot has a fitting lid. What you basically should be doing, don't lie about the region. Be honest. Bring out the strong characteristics without lying, because it won't work. People will find out that certain things are not available in your region. You should not lie about that. Oops, what's happening now? Okay. Think about the use of this unique regional characteristics and the motives of the talents to come. And the brand name used to be, we showed in our project, is really crucial. I cannot say much more about this. And for the steps ahead, we're in the process now in our region to take the information from the interviews into the processes. And there's a moment that Botox and plastic surgery won't help your region anymore. There's a need for integral thinking. Branding is crucial, but there's much more to think about. And if you only think about branding your region and only telling lies about how great your region is, it won't help you in finding people and won't help you in the process. Okay, so basically it's about how do we fit this subjective interpretations of our talents, what they like about the regions, into the regional development process. That's what we're doing at the moment in the project. And this process should not stop. It should be an ongoing process. It can be done in a different way than the surveys that we did, but there should be an integral way of thinking differently about branding and steering on the quality of your life in your region. Okay? I hope it was 5 minutes, but I'm not really sure.
Thank you very much. That was surely an interesting metaphor. We will see how many matches this region and this event will bring with it so that you find the interesting contents that you were looking for. This is also a sort of dating on a content level. I already saw quite some parallels in the whole branding question to the Button project that also focused in its best practices and its recommendations on the branding of a region. And quality of life gives us a tool to develop this branding or to put a soil, a ground to it, a data from the region on which the branding can then be developed. So I see very close links in those two sub-projects presentations that we can maybe discuss as soon as we get to the interactive session. But we're not there yet. We have one more sub-project to come from our Spanish partner here in Navarra, the Fundación MODERNA. Now, Sergio informed me that he will keep the Spanish roots up and he will speak in Spanish. Así que, es a ti.
Hello, good morning. Well, I'm going to start by commenting on a general overview of the project, because maybe there are people who are not familiar with it. Everybody from Brainflow obviously does know about the TAS project. What we seek are two main objectives. One would be to revise a battery of projects or services to attract talent in the regions. And the second objective is to define new initiatives that could be interesting to implement. The project has 7 partners. 4 are from Holland, from the Netherlands, 1 from Navarre, the foundation, the MODERNA Foundation, 1 in Germany, and the 7th from Sweden. I'm not going to go into this in great depth because it isn't that important. But what is important to say is that this project, as you mentioned before, yours was the first Brainflow project. TAS is the last one. And it is important to say that we are still developing some parts of the project. With respect to the focus or the approach, we wanted to make it the approach different in the different regions. Although there is a general approach, there are specific ones, and they vary depending on the region, because each region is different with respect to the state of its services to attract talent. And we divided the project into 4 stages. One related to the study of the situation in each of the regions. A second stage would be to develop the services which we believe are crucial to attract talent in each region, although, as I said before, in agreement with each particular region. The third stage would be to draw up recommendations, general recommendations, but once again specific according to the regions. And finally, the stage number 4 would be a guideline of good practices to attract talent. It is also important to point out that the research that we've carried out in each of the regions, we have found many things, not just related to the talent attraction services. For example, there are 3 factors that have to do with the decision that a person takes when going abroad, to go abroad, change jobs, and change place of residence. The first of those would be the job opportunities. The region must have jobs that are interesting, innovative, jobs thinking in the long term, and also with the necessary appropriate conditions. A second factor to be taken into account by people who are considering working abroad is a quality of life that is being studied in another project of BrainFlow, but it's very important for them. And once the person is in the new region, living in the new region, a lot of importance is placed on social integration of they themselves or their families and relations. Normally, people travel with their family, and therefore this point is very important. And that is where that talent can be retained. If the integration is achieved, it is much easier for that person to stay in the region, for that talent to be retained by the region. And there are 2 problems that we've also detected. The main ones had to do with the services, bureaucracy. Often when we go to a new country, we have to do a lot of paperwork processes which are very slow. And then on the other hand, we also have the language barrier, which is very important, especially when you first arrive in the new region. In the project, we are developing or thinking about the best practices. Here I wanted to sum up 4 of them. One is what we've called the welcome pack. The welcome pack is like a folder that each region should define, and which should include information, documentation that are useful when the person has already arrived in the region, and to help this person manage all types of services, find a house, for example, a school for the children, a new job for his or her wife, or for the husband if it's the other way around. A document or a folder with all the necessary information to help the person when they first arrive, when they land in the new country. In other regions, such as Germany, Holland, for example, we've got what we call the welcome day or meeting points. These are similar experiences. The welcome day is more generic, it's more open-ended, where people, any person, any worker, an expat who is working in a foreign country and can go to this welcome day. There are universities, enterprises, important companies from the public sector. And all of these people who've just landed in the country can ask any kind of question. If they And the meeting points is similar to the welcome day, but isn't so open. It's more aimed at the smaller meetings rather. Maybe there are several held over the year, and normally people are invited to them. Types of workers, talents, more specific profiles or similar profiles. And another best practice that is already carried out in different regions are the Talent Attraction Support Service Guide, the task guide. These are related to general services that may be accessible. Normally, they are downloadable documents that a lot of the websites of the different regions have to have an overview of the region. We are still working on our recommendations because I've said before this is the last project to be included in the program, but we have some conclusions already. And that is for the regions to be able to attract and retain talent. It must involve or engage all the players, all the actors, the micro, macro that we mentioned yesterday. We haven't really defined if it has to be micro or macro, but it has to be something that engages all the players. On the other hand, the future requires private-public strategies, as have been developed in many cases. And we also have to rationalize and centralize these services. And it is better to have 4, 5, 6 specifically or well-managed services than having a lot of services that are sometimes lost along the way. Our next steps. As I say, we are drawing up the guide of recommendations, and the next guideline or guide of good practices, best practices, will be presented in coming months. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Sergio.
Thank you very much.
For you with another very quick family anecdote. That is because my husband is American. And the two biggest issues he's facing in Germany is bureaucracy and language. And of course, language, you can say it's a little bit his fault. Bureaucracy, I think, is not. And it doesn't make things easier. So here too, I find a very practical approach that we can see in modern work life with the mobility that we have in our days. The services need to adapt to this high level of mobility if we want to attract the talent. And clearly there are connections here between Border Information Center and TAS, and we can investigate those connections in more detail in the interactive session that I would like to open now. I give the word to Ilka.
Thank you. First of all, are there urgent questions? Not for detailed content-related things, but for understanding the general things. Did you get everything? Did you understand everything? Yep. Okay. So, no urgent questions here? Then we go to our jury to ask them, and I would like to start with Monica, if that is okay, to pass the microphone on, to ask them for their opinion, giving a first statement. What do you think of the presentations you've seen?
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's a lot of good practices, and I would like to ask you about the button project. Do you think you have found the button?
Sorry, I'm late.
I think that for our region, which was Ostwestfalen-Lippe in Germany, we found the button. Yes, it's what we said. Actually, it's not one button to be taken. We've, what we found, for example, in our region was like that there were a lot of single measurements which were not bound, and that they focused a lot of, for example, things which tried to mobilize the women to get into engineering jobs. That was good, but it was too narrow. So what we've done together with the region, for example, was that we showed them the ways or how to improve the measurements, for example, that they have an, how can I tell you, like an overall strategy for human capital, which is, for example, mobilizing the untapped potential, which is attracting people to the region, new people to the region, but also re-attracting people who already lived in the region and then re-attract them back, so to let them come back, but which is also like things to let people go, because we are talking about how can we bind people to regions. We can't. We know that people are not mobile as we think they are, so they stay anyway in the region. So we should concentrate on these people who stay. And these who want to move, we should let them move. And then we should be there as regions, and we should keep them informed about the things which happen in the region, about the possibilities, the cultural landscapes, job possibilities, for example. And if they want to come, we should be open, have an opening culture, like a kind of welcoming culture. And I think that integration, it should be more. It should be more like inclusion. So you should not expect the people to come and to integrate themselves. You as a region should include them into the society. And even if the people leave and you don't get them back in persona to a region, you should build networks, for example. We call it pipelines to the outside knowledge, and you should absorb the knowledge back to the region. How you can do it, we can maybe see in further projects. Okay, so that's for that.
Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We directly can move on to Lasse. What's your opinion?
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentations. It's been very interesting getting to know all the sub-projects better. And also, as far as I can see, generally easily understandable and good concrete best practices and policy recommendations. That's good. Monica asked a question, and the answer to that question also interests me a bit. So I would like to ask a follow-up question to the button project. How easy is it to get the regions to actually implement your findings into action? What is the strategy, and how do you? What is the response from the regions in actually implementing the findings? Thank you.
Okay, then you're pointing to one of the starting points in the Button Project, of course, is the problem awareness within the regions. And I think all the regions that are in the project are very aware about the problems they have with finding talents, and also are aware that the problems will be growing in the future. So in that sense, it's not so difficult to mobilize actors. The problem is then that a lot of actions start to be taken on a very individual level. So business associations start, universities start doing something, and there's no integration. There is sometimes a bit of overlap. People start doing different traineeship programs, different attraction programs, so there are a lot of different things. So what you're sometimes missing is a bit of a focus and an overall strategy. What are we going to do? But also, of course, you should be aware about that some of the strategies will have weaknesses. So one of the strategies, like we mentioned, is like, okay, if your full focus in the region is on production of human capital, you know that if the business wants to have people now, you have to wait till people come from university or schools, and it may take 4, 5, 6 years. So if your problem is defining, we have enough people now, but we need people in 5 or 10 years, that would be a good solution. But that's pushing the right button. If you're pushing the wrong button, for the wrong problem, of course, then you have a misfit. But in general, the problem awareness is definitely there in all the regions. I think in all of Europe that we're facing a problem there. And one thing that's not so much addressed, I think, in this conference till now is the problem of demographic change. But especially in border regions, of course, if the economy gets better, the pressure on the labor market gets higher, which will mean that more people will be pushed to the core regions, which probably not the border regions. Why? Because if we get a shortage of people, it will be more difficult to keep the people, because then people will go to the core regions. In this moment, of course, people are not so aware about that.
Okay, thank you very much for your contributions. Very interesting ideas has been arising there. I guess that some of the general problem you focus in was that of visibility. And I had a couple of questions about that to any of you, and you can talk freely about it. First of all, the role of technologies of information in that visibility is completely exploited, or it's just some marginal reference in the web about your regions. And the second one, in that case, would refer to the relationship with the central states. I would only guess, I don't dare to do anything else, that probably in many countries, border regions are quite far away from the capital, and maybe even your own state is hindering or is placing obstacles to its development. Could you say something about that? And thank you very much.
Well, I can maybe start with, how can I tell you? Well, border regions, of course, are not metropolitan regions, but border regions have a chance. If you think away the border, they are not border anymore. So if you try to work or cooperate with the region which borders your own, it's you have a chance to create an own region which is full of potential, which, for example, and I don't want to say Germany is perfect in everything, no, it's not, but the border region which we have, like North Rhine-Westphalia and Overijssel, Geller, it works really good. So we try, we try to bin the potential and create a new region, for example. That's the first one. The second one is that I understand that metropolitan areas maybe don't have the problems border regions have. But I think that not everybody is attracted by metropolitan areas, and that may be what Franz said already. We should really find out what are the potentials and try to track the people which want to live in border regions. And we all are here because more or less the main of us, I would suppose now, are living not in metropolitan areas. So we stayed for some reason. And a lot of studies which we've done, each of us in the background, which can't be presented here, showed that people are not that mobile, as I said already. So people don't move around daily. And this potential should be used. And we have in our regions a lot of potential we don't see, because we are, and this is what I tried yesterday to say here, we are so focused on really high-skilled workers. But yes, we need them, but we have also, we should be more interested in building a knowledge base for region. And it's not only about people who have an IQ of whatever, so.
Contributions to that question? Maybe from the other sub-projects?
Okay, I can give maybe a setup for Sergio very quickly. I think your question about the role of central state in the welcoming services that Sergio was talking about, and Margot was mentioning the bureaucracy. Of course, the central state plays a crucial role. So, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's working permits, there are permits for people that you want to attract from the outside, and of course the central state can be quite of a hindrance. I don't know what the experience is in Spain about this, but of course getting people here with work permits and things like that, that's where the central state can play a negative role, and maybe, and especially in the EU context.
Okay. I see a question from the audience, but I think we would finish the jury round real quick, and I will remember the question, and we'll get to the audience in about a second.
Bueno, muchas gracias por vuestras presentaciones.
Thank you very much for your presentations, your work, and these projects that are very interesting. The button project, especially because of the longitudinal vision based on education, we consider, and as we've seen here, is essential for the process. I would like to mention the other projects that were more specialized. You're posing, trying to see the strong points which in any area must be developed and improved. I come from an area where a series of resources was optimized. There was a lot of coal, there's a lot of iron, and the iron and steel industry developed greatly. When the crisis came, that became an enormous problem, and we had to redo the entire labor economic policy of those people who were carrying out those jobs. Based on the positive vision, which is excellent, and it's essential to go into the strong points of an area and activate those strong points. If, for example, how can we get not just the talent to stay, there can be a talent that can generate a strong point that we haven't yet seen.
The board. No volunteers so far. Was it difficult with the translation? Okay.
Sorry, we had some difficulties in getting. I think the question is that talented people can generate new economic things. Is this basically the question? Yeah. So.
Could you maybe repeat the question?
Could you repeat?
Translation reaches our board. Thank you.
See if I can try and explain things better. There are questions of talents that you have perceived already as strong points, but there can be others that you haven't realized exist yet. There is talent that is still not on the ranking that you are assessing. I think it's a good idea to have a ranking, but if you could leave open the possibility for there to a bias, maybe I think the question is if there are strong points of the talent that you haven't yet recognized. Is there talent or there are strong points about the region that you've not yet recognized? I don't know if that explains it a bit better, the question. Okay.
Seen in the different regions, yeah. I think one of the very interesting things I see is that if in regions we're trying to attract people from the outside, we so often forget that these people bring talents we don't have in the region. And very interesting now is to see, for instance, if we get now, I think in Germany, a little bit also in the Netherlands, we get people from other regions that bring their own knowledges, their own culture, and they bring certain new things and certain new ways of working we might not have been thinking about. And I was also thinking about Lithuania, that I know that, for instance, in Alytus, they get more and more foreign students. and they want these foreign students to start companies. It's a very interesting idea. So Lithuanian students come to us to study, and some Lithuanian students stay in our countries, and they get students from India or Vietnam, and these students are very entrepreneurial. Why? You move to the other side of the world to study, and now in the Mariupol region, they're working on, can we make the students that want to make a living there from India, from Vietnam, places like that, they want to start, they're business people often, they have this feeling for business. They have talents to start business. So in Alitus campus, they try to set up a knowledge park with starters from companies, and they try to interest these Indian students, these Vietnamese students, these Chinese students, whoever's coming, with their specific talents they took from their countries, because their country is different, but they have like they're migrants. They really are like the people from India that went to the United States. They're very much, that's the kind of people you're looking for. So that's something new. So they really bring something for the region, a kind of entrepreneurship that's not maybe so much there among the students, which are there, but these students take their entrepreneurships and want to go to Western countries, and the Indian people come there and want to start a business there. Something that's maybe a good example. You want to add something to that?
Well, I want to point out another point. In Lithuania, we have this situation. We have students from India. They have enterprises in Alitus. Very well, very good. But we always forget one thing. I think we should not only attract people from other countries to our region, other talents, but we have a lot of talents in Lithuania also. But we don't make a situation this way that they could stay. The immigration in Lithuania is very huge. There's no information of possibility to start business in Poland. There's no such information. We have such a huge problem, and we want to get talent from foreign countries without taking care of our talents. So this is the other situation we have to solve.
Well, referring to France, maybe what you said, it came up my mind when you were saying it, is like what we did not have to take into account. We had maybe we had a look at what are the migration patterns, and what is brain drain, what is brain gain, blah, all that things, you know, and what are the measures to bring the people back, to mobilize the people, to attract them, whatever. It's really, I think if you get people from outside the region, they bring, it's an enrichment, they bring another culture with them. So the fact of inclusion it's really important, because what does innovation mean? To innovate is to think in a different way, you know? The regions, for example, also Germany as a country, but also German regions, they are not really open. Nobody wants to come. Germans are strange. They are not open. If we open up as a region, for example, we have a chance to get to know a different culture, for example, people who think different. And if you think different, and if you can mix up the different thinking with the thinking of your region, maybe innovation comes out, maybe. So this is what we did not have, you know, we did not focus on things like that, on cultural things, which are important, I think, and which are a challenge at the one hand, but also chance on the other hand. And then maybe the question would be also, because as you said already, that all the people are coming in and you don't have a look at the people which you have. So maybe then you can ask if you have this cultural tensions. So if people are all the time like, you know, how much tension is your region is going to handle? So how much tension can your region, or can the people in your region live with? What is positive and healthy for innovation, and what it's not? That are questions which are really very maybe research questions, but maybe things we should think about. We forget the humans behind. We are talking about these people like products, and they are not. We were, you know, in the past it was all about technology, but we found out technology is not everything. That's the human who's pushing the button.
Okay, thank you very much. We've seen questions here from the audience. Somewhere here it was indicated. Over there. I'm jumping.
Yeah, he makes you walk a bit.
Hi, you're welcome.
Sí, yo no sé si mi pregunta.
I don't know if my question is going to be more local, but we are in Navarra, and I'm from here, and from the point of view of TAS, MODERNA, what weak points have you detected in Navarre that should be corrected in the comparison with the attraction that other cross-border regions can have, the cross-border regions that we are talking about?
Una pregunta directamente
We have the native speaker.
TAS no está específicamente.
It is not specifically focused on studying the differences between the services in the adjacent or bordering regions with Navarre. However, we have seen that more specifically talking about this region, we have the important job to do to improve relations with France, for example, which is our nearest border, not the only one, related to the structures and services she was mentioning between Holland and the relationships that exist. In some cases, we could even say maybe the border doesn't exist with business, economic activities, university. The difference is there's a total difference. For example, we go to the north of France and the Pyrenees are in the middle. It makes the border different. They see it like an opportunity, as she was saying, improving and growing. And maybe with the language barrier that we've got, it's a bit more difficult for us, and this is something that we have to improve upon. You've also asked about something else as the first question. What was it? Yes, I was referring to trying to be more specific. Maybe I've posed it as a difficulty. You have to make an effort. If you tell me what the strong points of Navarra to retain talent, but I'm more interested in the weak points that Navarre has, and weak points that we improve on to make us more attractive to talent, for people to come here and so that we can retain them. There are three main weak points. The first is the result of the economic crisis. We don't have attractive jobs. In many cases, for people in Navarre, and even more so to attract people from the outside, that is absolutely crucial. This is one of the factors, key factors that I've mentioned. If you don't have powerful, innovative projects and good jobs, it's very complicated to attract talent. It's literally impossible. So that's the main weak points. But above all, there's another two that have already been mentioned in all the surveys that we've sent out to people. The first weak point is that there was something that they were missing, and that was a centralized office, either virtual or physical, where they could process all the topics. For example, when a person comes to a new region or a new country, all the paperwork that they have to do. And again, language once again. When people come from elsewhere in Europe, the problem is that the percentage of people who speak English or other language is very low, even though bit by bit we are improving on that. And even more so if we're talking about the information points would be the tourist offices where they do speak different languages.
I'm a bit curious whether our audience has questions. Anything you would like to get to know from the sub-projects?
Thank you, Ilka. I have maybe a bit of a follow-up question on this quality of life explanation that you gave, with this very interesting parallel of dating. If I try to follow your parallel, it seems that you're, in the matter of attracting new talent to your region, you're taking dating to a whole new level, right? You're not trying to date one person, you're trying to date, in fact, hundreds or thousands of people. And the question, of course, is if you are going to date so many people at the same time, can you position or profile yourself in such a way that you are attractive to all of them and at the same time still unique and standing out to the next region that's also trying to date these same people?
He pushed the wrong button, sorry. No. If you take on the metaphor, think about this. A region, of course, the same border regions might be attractive for the same kind of people that are looking for certain things. So if you're looking for a region where life is different, where there's a lot of binding between people, where there's a lot of networking, where life is a little bit easier, less hectic, where there's green, where there's good family life, where there's less crime, whatever kind of things you're looking for in a region, of course, you're completely right. There are more regions in Europe where you could be attracted. And you're basically saying then that I'm the guy that's going to a pub where there's speed dating and there are more women interested in me. Okay, that's a fact of life. But still, the most stupid thing you could do is go into the pub and say, ladies, I'm interesting for all of you. But that's what a lot of regions do. So they don't bring out the subjective criteria. It's not like they come in and say, okay, I'm a sporty guy. Girls, if you're not interested in hiking in the vacation, maybe we're not a good match. Things like that. So, of course, so yes, but it would be strange if every person in life would only potentially fit with one other person in life. Some people think about this. Don't tell my wife, but I think I think that there might be more matches, but it's more about what kind of characteristics do you bring out, and very especially for this project is, how do you find them out? How do you know what kind of people want to work in your region? Why neglect this? So basically this project is very much about how do you find this out, and then of course you can tell a bit more, how do you use this in branding? I can show you great movies of PR films from regions that bringing out the wrong message. I see the movie, I look at the movie and I think, oh, this region is presenting themselves as a region for 50+ people who want to end their career. And then I see another movie and I see, okay, this region is presenting themselves as a very hectic region. If you want to run all day, you should go to this region. So this kind of differences, of course, you bring out in branding.
You know what I'm thinking about is that I don't think we have a problem that regions are presenting too broad. I think they present too narrow. I can tell you a story. I've been to a very small village in the south of Germany, which is proper and rich and whatever. And it was very strange because I'm a young woman and I was sitting in front of a lot of, let's say, middle-aged men, and I had to tell them how to attract people from outside. And they told me very, the measurements they had and what they are doing. And then one of them stood up and told me that they are searching for engineers. And I said, so what are you doing if you search for them? And he said, well, we invite them to the region and then they can visit the workplace, which they will, have in the future. And for their wives, we have a field trip. Field trip means that they can have a look what's going on in the region. So what do you say? And I said, well, you know what? I would invite the women to have a look at the workplace and make a field trip for the men. So the problem that it's too narrow. You don't have a look at what's your potential really. You just try to address I don't know whom. So that's the problem. And okay, they don't like me after that, so I had to go, but that's okay for me. But maybe they think about it, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We do have another question here from the audience.
Yeah. Thank you. This is another question or question of the Navarra local question. Is the same. Los 3 puntos que
The 3 points that you've mentioned, difficulties, obstacles, And I agree with them, those 3 points. The main problem, and the largest problem, which limits the possibility for development, is that there isn't sufficient work. There aren't enough jobs. And that is the other 2 that you've mentioned. One in particular is easy to implement, and that is an information center, an information office. And the 3rd problem, language, from what I heard yesterday, a company that is working in different places, even if you go to Brazil and you know Spanish, you've got to learn Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. So if we want to attract people with talent, they must speak Spanish, regardless. That's in Navarra, the MODERNA plan. And regardless of the fact that people here speak English, to be able to talk to people who come here. But I would propose it the other way round, that the foreigners who come here should learn Spanish.
¿Era una pregunta o...?
Was that a question or just a comment or a statement? I agree with you. It is another option, obviously. All foreigners who need to learn Spanish when they come here, that's clear. But I was focusing more on the services, not just the attraction, the brand image of Navarra to attract talents, but that person, that talent, that worker who comes here, the first day here, their first week here, they still haven't learnt the language. That is a problem. Therefore, it is necessary to have information offices for those people. There must be somebody there who can attend to those people in their own language or in an internationally acknowledged language, which in this case would be English. Another topic that you've mentioned, setting up an office, implementing an office. That is something else that's come out in the surveys. I don't agree with that being cheap, because I think it is a cost that we'd have to look into it. It's going to be a new structure. Is it going to be a virtual office? Well, that would be another option. These are things that have to be defined. And I said before, there has to be a public-private collaboration. Is it going to be all public, of the multinational companies that take advantage of the talents? Do they have to add their little bit? Well, how? What we have to do is to design a model, and that is what we are doing.
More questions from the audience. Here, I see a question.
Thank you. One thing that sprung to my mind with the presentations of TAS and Border Info was, are you considering a sort of single European labor market? Because we have a European Union and we have this labor mobility across regions, as you are looking into. How about the single market?
Who wants to take this question?
Well, I think it's already like a single market, because lots of people, for example, from Lithuania is working in a foreign countries. They are going to study there. They are coming to study in Lithuania. We have programs in universities. They exchange students. So it's already going to that way. But I think that it's not only trying to make it global, to make it Europe global market, but it's important also to make, in every country, to make a possibility choose what you want to do in your life. Do you want to go through, who said everyone, like, be global, go work, learn languages, explore countries? Not everyone wants to do that, but everyone now is talking about that. Yesterday was someone saying that universities, colleges have, well, they're preparing students, and students can choose what they really need and what really want to do in their lives. This situation is also like this, because most of students we have made research, not everyone wants to do that. Some of them, they want to learn languages, explore countries, but still they want to stay in their hometown, home regions, and have possibility to work in the cross-border.
But if I can push the argument a little bit further, for example, you could imagine that if you're setting up services to stimulate mobility, we've heard that Germany has a shortage of 500,000 skilled workers in the near future. So if they set up a more aggressive plan, North Rhine-Westphalia, excuse me. So the problem is even bigger. If they set up language courses for Spanish people to learn German, you have a serious brain drain problem. So there's this balanced effect in what you do to stimulate this cross-border mobility.
Well, at this moment, our goal is, of course, working cross-border mobility, but it's more about possibility live in a home region, work to other country nearby, that you could be mobile, but not go emigrate to foreign countries far away. Still, the Lithuanian countries and people are like, they like learning languages, they do learn them. There's lots of examples when Lithuanians learn, for example, Norwegian and go work qualified jobs in Norwegian, in medical services. There's examples, of course, where skilled workers go work in other countries, in Great Britain. But I think that the main problem is that they, maybe 80% of these people choose this kind of life because they don't see a possibility to work in cross-border to stay in home region, because everyone now is pointing to the globalization.
Thank you very much. Before winding up that first round, I would like to get to know whether you ever tried to date a region.
Excuse me?
Whether you ever tried to date a region, as Franz told us to do so.
We have we have not specifically tried to date a region, but I actually like the idea that you could sort of think that you should date a region. I think it's very important that the regions are able to sort of show their sort of specific qualities. We tend to sort of focus on, come to a region, you will find a job, you'll find a place to live, but we're not very good in sort of bringing out the really specific selling points.
Thank you. Are there any questions from our jury still to be addressed? Anything else you need to know for making up your mind who might be the winner of today's competition? If not, I mean, no problem.
No, we can move on.
But if everything's clear, it's fine. Thank you to those 4 speakers of the first round. I myself...
For the applause, I would say.
Give them an applause, yeah. It has really been